talking about values. I wanted to try to make values real. And in doing that a little further, let me give you a dichotomy of what I mean by values. One category we're going to call Maat and Nguzo Saba. The other category we're going to call hip-hop. And remember, you can be an adult and value the hip-hop New Jack value system. Let me define more in detail what I mean by values. We used to value we, but now some of us value I. We used to value cooperation, but now many of us value competition. We used to value what we felt on the inside, but now many of us value what we see on the outside. You know we have youth in New York and in Brooklyn that will kill you over a pair of gym shoes. You know Nike, LA Gear, Reebok, they make those shoes in South Korea for $2.38. Some not crazy youth for $119.95. We're talking about value. Many of us value what we have on the outside. Gym shoes, starter jackets. And remember, the youth got their value system from us. With our BMWs and our Cadillacs. Remember, the youth cannot be materialistic by themselves. We used to want to become the employer, but now many of us have an employee mentality. We used to want to be a producer, but now many of us only want to become a consumer. We're talking about values. Do you value Maat or do you value hip-hop and New Jack? It used to be we worked for the next generation. Now we only look to my generation. We used to be pro-life, but now many of us are pro-death. We're talking about value. We used to believe in love, but now many of us believe in self-gratification. I want to pause there for a moment, because in America, for many of us, we have never been in love. You see, in America, the word is overused and misunderstood. In Africa, the other phrase is hofu ni kwenu. My fear is for you. I often ask people, and they say they're in love, and I ask them, why did you say you're in love? And they say, because he or she makes me feel good. Well, where's the love at? It is obvious as soon as he or she stops making you feel good, then the love would also stop. That is not love. That's self-gratification. See, when you really love someone, it is not what they're doing for you. It's what you're doing for them. Many of us have never been in love. See, in the Darwin theory of self-preservation, you have to look out for numero uno. But in African love, you no longer have to worry about you anymore. Can you imagine if you were really in love and you would not have to worry about yourself anymore? That you knew you were in good hands, not because of Allstate. That you were in good hands because your mate loved you and always had you number one on the agenda. It's nice going through life not having to always worry about yourself. Many of us in America have never been in love. For those who want to understand love in its purest terms, read Isaiah, the 43rd chapter. You want to talk about agape, unconditional love? Read the 43rd chapter of Isaiah. We're talking about values. And under Maat, we believe in... That's a homework assignment. Don't read it. That's a homework. Homework. Pastor Youngblood said, give them some homework tonight, Juwanza. And under Maat, we believe in Kunte Kinte. Under hip-hop and New Jack, we believe in Fiddler. The most important dialogue to me in the movie Roots by Alex Haley was the dialogue between Kunte Kinte and Fiddler. They had a different value system. See, Fiddler thought that he was free because he worked in the master's house, because the master liked him. And Fiddler thought that he could be free when the masters were not free. But Kunte Kinte, first of all, said being free means kujichagulia. It means self-determination. That my name is not Toby. Now, you can beat me to our drum, but my name is Kunte Kinte. Being free means self-definition. It means I don't want to work in your house. I want to own me some land. And last but not least, how can I be free when my brothers and sisters are not free? Kunte Kinte and Fiddler had a different value system. And the same thing between Nelson Mandela and Ted Koppel. When Nelson Mandela first came to New York after 27 years unfairly being incarcerated, he did not denounce Gaddafi and Castro. And Koppel liked Mandela. And Koppel kept saying, you don't understand, Nelson. You're in America. We don't like Gaddafi. We don't like Castro. But Mandela said, you don't understand, Ted. I'm not an American. I'm an African. I'm not an American. I'm not a politician. I'm an African. And I don't change my values based upon where I'm at. Gaddafi and Castro were my friends before I came to America. Ted didn't understand. It was a different value system. Between Mandela, that believed in Maat, and Compa, that believed in hip-hop and New Jack. We're talking about values. And then the last two. Remember what Pastor often mentions here at St. Paul? Takes a whole village to raise a child. You need to read Upon This Rock. Talks about the village here. In the good times and the bad times, Reverend Youngblood talks about it takes a whole village to raise a child. But now that's my child, and you better not put your hands on her. As you know, when you and I were growing up, teachers and parents were on the same side. Parents and neighbors were on the same side. We had a Maat value system, but we have now bought into a Eurocentric value system. And then last but not least, under this dichotomy, under Maat, I am because we are. But under hip-hop, I am because of what I own, because of what I do. Have you ever seen a handkerchief-head Negro with an M.A., a B.A., M.A., or Ph.D.? Have you ever seen one with a position? You know, vice president in charge of the closets, in charge of you, and you, the head Negro in charge? To them, their self-esteem is totally based on what they do. And have you noticed in Brooklyn, in low-income areas, there are more BMWs, more Cadillacs there than in the affluent suburbs? I am because of what I own. But under Maat, I am because we are. Can you imagine being a writer and no reader? Can you imagine wanting to speak at St. Paul tonight and no one was here but a couple deacons and that's it? See, I am because we are. We cannot separate ourselves from each other. We're all in this together. We're talking about values. I want you to review the list. And I want you to ask yourself, where are you at in this value system? See, it's more than the youth on this one. It's more than the youth that are bought into hip-hop and New Jack. Let me again make values clear. It has been said that you can buy men real cheap. Hear that, Eldad and Medad? That you can buy men real cheap. We lost 3 of our best, Mike Tyson, Magic Johnson, and Marion Barry, because they were undisciplined as it relates to women. It's been said you can buy many men with black women, that many men lack discipline. If you can't get them with a black woman, get them with a white woman. If you don't get them there, then get them with the overall issue in that sex. Talking about the 6 European corruptibles. If you don't get them with sex, get them with drugs. Get them with money. And last but not least, your ace in the hole, give a Negro a good job. Second homework assignment, men and women, what's your price? Maulana Kareem and I often talk about this, and we both said that if we had it our way, no one could call himself a leader without going through our leadership training on values. It's been said you can buy men real cheap. So the question is, what's your price? See, what made King and Malcolm special, they were priceless. They couldn't be bought. Even death couldn't buy them. They both knew they were going to die. And they still didn't compromise. What's your price, brother? I'll be even clear. In the book, one of our short stories in chapter 1 talks about Jesse Jackson. It's 1988. He's running for the presidency. They already got Hart, and now they're looking for Jesse. 1988. He's campaigned for 18 hours in New York. He's staying at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, and a fine-looking sister comes knocking on the door, very poorly dressed, at 2 o'clock in the morning. Jesse has about 4 options. Option number 1, he can look down the hallway, see if anybody's looking, and pull her in and enjoy the rest of the night. That's option number 1. Option number 2, he can remind her, I'm married to Jackie. I've been married to her for the past 30 years. She's the mother of my 5 children, and I have to say no. Option number 3, I love the Lord. I know Jesus. And if I bring you in here, I'll be committing adultery. So for that reason, I have to say no. And then the last option, he can remind her that as soon as he brings her in about 5 minutes, the cameras turn on. 5 minutes after that, the FBI comes knocking on the door. and his whole career goes down the tube. So Jesse smiled at her and said, keep up alive. I love you very much, and closed the door. We're talking about values. And see, a lot of brothers are in that situation for the first time, and they never had a dress rehearsal. They never practiced that. They were set up. It's been said you can buy black men real cheap. Let's go on. In chapter 1 of the book, I want to first of all look at a couple of vignettes. And the first one is show you how New Jack, the brother that will kill you over a pair of gym shoes, New Jack learned from Old Jack. A car manufacturer, I won't call the name, but you know it must be either Ford, GM, or Chrysler. 3 months ago in the Wall Street Journal, the CEO called a meeting of the engineering department, accounting, and the legal department, and he asked engineering, how many cars are we going to have to recall? And engineering said we're going to have to recall 175,000 cars. Then he asked engineering, how much will it cost to recall each car? And they said approximately $300. And then he asked accounting, what's the total of that? And they said that will approximately cost $50 million. Then he asked engineering department, how many people will die if we don't recall the cars? And they said about 1 per 3,000, or about 58 people will die. And then he asked the legal department, how much will each lawsuit cost us? And they said approximately $200,000. Then he asked the county, how much will that be in total? And they said $12 million. Then he looked at them. I'll be clear. He looked through them and said, the nerve of you to call me into a meeting when the decision was obvious. We saved $38 million if we let them die. We're talking about value. Let me give you another example of how values are real. For those that already have the book, I'm reading on page 11. It's 8:45 in the morning. They both had 15 minutes before they had to punch in to the man's job. They both waited for the red light, but for some reason, it's taking much longer to turn green. Dominique is dressed in a wool suit, cotton shirt, and silk tie made by Bill Robinson. He's driving a black Porsche. His belt and shoes are made by John Deani. Natalie is in a red Jaguar that matches the color of her dress. Her dress was made by Dolce & Gabbana. Her leather boots were made by Code West, and her earrings by James R. Powell. They both look at each other and turn away. The light is still not turned green. They look back at each other. No, to be more exact, they look through each other, and then they turn away. For some reason, the light has still not turned green. They then turn back and look at each other again, and this time with disdain, for they see each other. As they turn back away again, waiting for the light to change, they wonder, am I Dominique? Am I Natalie? Am I Porsche, Jaguar, Bill Robinson, John Deani, Dolce, Gabbana, Code West, or James R. Powell? The light turns green, and they both speed off. Their questions go unanswered. I want to ask you tonight, since we think we're Afrocentric, what's your name? Dominique, Gabbana, John Deani, Bill Robinson, James R. Powell? We think we're Afrocentric, but look at your label. They both saw each other. Another quick idea of what I mean about value. Have you ever gone to a gas station and you had the opportunity to pump first and pay second? That is a good experience. You know, it means that in terms of their value system, they trust you enough that you can pump first and pay later. I've even seen gas stations in certain neighborhoods where you can do this up to about 10 o'clock at night. And then I guess between 10 and 6 a.m., they believe the values change. And then their attitude is pay first, then you pump. We're talking about value. And we have to make sure we understand the values are real. And they're expressed literally in everything that we do. Now remember, as we go on with this presentation, that you cannot separate values from behavior. Now you can separate values from words, but not from behavior.